This time on Rat and Cat, recovery stories from June 2020, focusing on the leading cause of death in U.S. national parks. Welcome to Rat and Cat, where we search, survive, and explore. I'm Nakia. It's time to take a look at recovery stories from June 2020. It's summer, and drownings are the leading headlines for recovery stories. Let's take a brief look at some of the many stories that we can learn from. A body was recovered from canal workings near Salt Lake City. The body was wedged in a concrete structure where water from a nearby canal flows into it and then into the nearby Jordan River. The body was unrecognizable, and authorities aren't sure yet if it was male or female. Police in Fairfax County, Virginia, are investigating an apparent drowning of a 17-year-old who was found dead in Reston's Lake Audubon after a swimmer disappeared underwater. After about an hour, the teen was found unresponsive in the water. He was pronounced dead at the scene. In West Virginia, two men were fishing in the Kanawha River and discovered a body floating in the water. Police say it could be a missing person from Charleston. In Calgary, Canada, emergency crews have recovered a body from the Bow River. On Lake Champlain near Alborough Dunes State Park, 52-year-old Dennis Rabideau dove into the water from his boat to go swimming, but the wind pushed his boat away from him. He was unable to return before disappearing underwater. He was not able to resurface despite several people in the boat trying to rescue him. 3 days later, divers located the body. In the Delaware River, a 22-year-old man was swimming with two friends when he slipped under the water and did not resurface. His body was soon recovered after the incident. A body was found floating in a pond at a park in Brockton, Massachusetts. And 37-year-old Anthony Kahn was standing on a sandbar in Bass Lake when the wind picked up and released his boat anchor. He tried to swim after it and drowned. 37-year-old Jared Bruce Boria of Vancouver, Washington, paddled into Diamond Lake, Oregon. People heard him yelling for help around 10:20 p.m., but when help arrived, they only found his boat, paddle, and shoes floating in the lake. He was not wearing a life jacket. His body was found and recovered 10 days later. There are hundreds of sobering stories just like these, many of them men going out in their boats in the evening alone. Their cries for help are heard in the dark from shore, or men thrown from boats who aren't seen again until their lifeless bodies resurface days later. I have to say these stories hit close to home for me. I nearly drowned as a child, but my sister rescued me. I've also personally saved 4 people from drowning. Also, in 2 separate incidents, I was on a sinking vessel, one of which left me stranded on a deserted island in the South Pacific for 24 hours. Let's look at some statistics. In the U.S., drownings are by far the leading cause of death in national parks, and the 3rd leading cause of death worldwide. If we look at all drownings, as reported by the Center for Disease Control, there are more than 3,500 unintentional drownings each year in the U.S., plus more than 350 boat-related drownings each year. About 1 in 5 drownings are children under 14 years old. For every child that dies, 5 other children are received at emergency rooms for non-fatal submersion injuries. 50% of drowning victims need further medical care for injuries such as severe brain damage. About 80% of people who die from drowning in the United States are male. So what are the top reasons people drown? Number 1, according to the CDC, subpar swimming skills are the top cause. Children who receive swimming instructions are less likely to drown from suffering from swimming-related injuries. 2, a lack of barriers around swimming areas. A 4-sided fence around a swimming pool, for example, reduces the risk of drowning by about 80% compared to a swimming pool that is secured only by a 3-sided fence. Number 3, a lack of supervision. 77% of those involved in home drowning accidents have been missing for less than 5 minutes, and 70% weren't expected to be in or near the pool at that time. Number 4, alcohol. Alcohol is attributed to as many as 70% of all water recreational injuries and deaths. This is a big one that people often overlook. A person's blood alcohol level is usually significantly elevated when recreating on or near water compared to drinking the same amount when they're not on the water. That's because of dehydration. In my book, alcohol and recreational drugs have no place on or near the water. Those who drink while boating endanger themselves and others. And number 5, seizure disorders. Drowning is the most common cause of injury and death for people with a seizure disorder. The thing is, almost all these drownings could be prevented by simply wearing a life jacket. Some of that has to do with the old idea that life jackets are uncomfortable. But there are a lot of great new life jackets out there that are comfortable, stylish, and practical. There are even low-profile life jackets that self-inflate when they touch water. But probably the biggest overlooked reason why so many men drown is hubris. It's actually a major factor in why men go missing in the wilderness in general. I didn't want to look unmanly as how someone recently described their near-drowning experience to me, but for me, it's more manly to be prepared and alive than have a big ego and end up dead. But the choice is yours. There's one more related story that also hit close to home for me this week. I was driving across the bridge in Old Town, Idaho Tuesday evening when I noticed a man frantically running along it, repeatedly looking over the edge. I knew something was wrong, so I pulled over and parked just as police showed up and blocked off one of the lanes on the bridge. Kayakers were on the river searching for something or someone. A few moments later, a woman hurried by the bridge in tears and told me her son had been jumping off the bridge and not resurfaced. Around 2 hours later, I returned. Divers had recovered the body of 29-year-old Tyler Vance Watson. I probably won't ever forget that mother kneeling at the edge of the river, the sound of her weeping carrying across the water. The cause of death at this time is unknown, but witnesses say he landed funny. Watson had jumped several times earlier, and it appears others might have as well without injury. A young man named Travis shared this video with me of people jumping off the bridge shortly before the incident. The cause of death at this time is unknown. Perhaps Watson broke his back and was paralyzed, or was knocked unconscious by the fall. Also, what some people don't realize is that the water below the 40 to 50 foot high bridge can be very shallow, only 10 feet deep in some places. In addition, some debris from the old bridge still lies beneath the surface. A few years ago, another man purportedly jumped off a different bridge just downriver into shallow water and instantly became a paraplegic. Alcohol was involved in that incident. Again, I ask, is a temporary thrill or show really worth your life? I'll put a link to my new Recoveries story playlist at the end of this video, and my subscribers on Patreon can see additional recovery stories. What about you? Have you ever had a near-drowning experience? Have you ever rescued someone? What's your favorite flotation device? I look forward to reading your stories in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Nakia, and this is Rat and Cat Search and Survival. Get out there, be safe, and enjoy the wild.